Welcome to Lesson 2 of Week 12, focusing on submission timing strategy. This lesson addresses why when you submit matters as much as what you submit. Many applicants treat submission as a simple administrative step to complete at the last possible moment. This approach creates unnecessary risk and leads to preventable failures. Submission timing is a strategic decision that protects your investment in proposal development. Electronic submission systems are complex and imperfect. They experience technical problems, validate applications against requirements, and sometimes behave unexpectedly. When these issues occur at the last minute, you have no time to recover. When they occur days before the deadline, they become manageable inconveniences rather than catastrophic failures. This lesson teaches you to approach submission timing strategically. By the end, you will understand why submitting 48 to 72 hours early is recommended, how to handle validation errors that electronic systems return, what happens when submission systems experience outages, and how to obtain and preserve confirmation of successful submission. These skills transform submission from a stressful gamble into a controlled process. Early submission is not merely cautious advice, it is professional best practice with concrete benefits. Understanding why early submission matters helps you commit to this approach. Buffer time transforms technical problems from catastrophic failures into manageable inconveniences. When you submit 48 hours early and encounter a validation error, you have time to diagnose the problem, make corrections, and resubmit successfully. When you submit 1 hour early and encounter the same error, you may run out of time. The difference is not the error, it is your capacity to respond. Stress reduction improves both your well-being and your work quality. Deadline anxiety impairs judgment and leads to mistakes. When you know your submission is complete days before the deadline, you can relax, review calmly, and address any issues thoughtfully. Last-minute panic leads to poor decisions and overlooked errors. Error recovery requires time that last-minute submission does not provide. Electronic systems often reveal problems you did not anticipate. File format issues, missing required fields, attachment size limits exceeded. Discovering these problems early gives you time to solve them. Discovering them at the deadline gives you no options. Professional practice among experienced grant professionals consistently involves early submission. Organizations with strong grant track records build early submission into their standard procedures. This is not timidity. It is wisdom gained from experience with the many things that can go wrong. The 48-hour rule establishes a minimum buffer between your submission and the deadline. This buffer is your insurance against the unexpected. The recommended minimum of 48 hours before the deadline provides enough time to identify problems, contact support if needed, make corrections, and resubmit. Most validation errors can be diagnosed and fixed within this window. Most technical support inquiries can be answered. 48 hours is the minimum professional standard. Better practice extends this buffer to 72 hours, providing additional safety margin for complex problems. Some issues require multiple rounds of troubleshooting. Some corrections reveal additional problems. 72 hours accommodates these cascading issues more comfortably than 48. When possible, aim for 72 hours rather than 48. Calculate your buffer in working days rather than calendar time. A deadline at 5 p.m. Monday means 48 hours is Saturday morning, when support staff may be unavailable and your own team may be harder to reach. If your buffer falls over a weekend, extend it to ensure you have working days available for problem solving. Account for holidays similarly. Help desk support availability decreases near major deadlines as volume increases. When thousands of applicants are submitting to the same deadline, support response times lengthen significantly. Submitting early means your support request goes into a shorter queue. Submitting at the deadline means competing with everyone else who waited. Validation errors are automated checks that electronic submission systems perform to verify application compliance. Understanding how validation works helps you anticipate and prevent these errors. Validation checks verify that your application meets technical requirements before acceptance. These automated systems check for required fields, file format compliance, size limits, naming conventions, and other technical specifications. Validation occurs when you attempt to submit, not during your drafting process. Problems invisible during preparation become visible during submission. Common triggers for validation errors include missing required fields on forms, incorrect file formats that systems cannot process, files exceeding size limits, improper file naming that does not match expected patterns, and incomplete or inconsistent data across application components. Any deviation from expected parameters can trigger validation failure. Error messages from validation systems are often cryptic and may require interpretation. Messages like attachment failed validation or required field missing do not always specify which attachment or which field. You may need to investigate systematically to identify the actual problem. Familiarity with common error patterns helps you interpret these messages more quickly. The rejection consequence is that applications failing validation may not be accepted at all. Unlike human reviewers who might overlook minor technical issues, automated systems enforce rules rigidly. A proposal that fails validation is not submitted, regardless of its quality. Technical compliance is a prerequisite for having your proposal considered. Understanding common validation failures helps you prevent them through careful preparation. These failures occur frequently and are almost always preventable. File format issues occur when your files are in wrong formats, corrupted, or created with incompatible software versions. A system expecting PDF may reject Word documents. A PDF created with one software version may not open in another. Corrupted files that appear to work on your computer may fail validation. Verify file formats match requirements exactly and test that files open correctly. Size limit exceeded failures occur when individual files or your total application package exceed specified limits. High-resolution images, embedded graphics, and complex formatting inflate file sizes. Some systems have separate limits for individual attachments and total package size. Check both limits and compress files if necessary. Test uploads before the deadline to catch size problems early. Naming violations trigger rejection when file names do not match required conventions. Requirements may specify exact naming patterns, including organization identifiers, document type codes, or specific separators. A single misplaced character or wrong capitalization can cause rejection. Copy naming conventions exactly from the NOFO and verify compliance before submission. Missing components include required attachments not uploaded or form fields not completed. Systems check for presence of required elements and reject incomplete packages. Your checklist process should catch missing components before submission, but validation provides a final check. Pay attention to error messages that identify what is missing. When validation errors occur, your response determines whether they become minor setbacks or submission failures. A systematic approach resolves most errors successfully. Do not panic when validation errors appear. These errors are solvable when you have adequate time, which is why early submission matters so much. Panic leads to hasty fixes that may create new problems. Take a breath, assess the situation calmly, and proceed methodically. You have encountered a problem, not a catastrophe. Read error messages carefully because they contain clues to the problem, even when cryptically worded. Note the exact error text, any codes or numbers included, and which component triggered the error. Sometimes the message directly identifies the problem. Sometimes you need to interpret technical language. Recording the exact message helps if you need to contact support. Systematic diagnosis checks each possible cause methodically rather than guessing randomly. If the error mentions an attachment, check all attachments for format, size, and naming compliance. If the error mentions a form field, review all required fields on the relevant form. Work through possibilities systematically rather than making random changes that might introduce new problems. Document everything about the errors you encounter and how you resolve them. This documentation helps if you encounter similar errors in future submissions. It also helps colleagues who may face the same issues. Building organizational knowledge about validation problems improves everyone's success rate over time. Understanding the Grants.gov submission process helps you navigate it successfully. This federal portal has specific procedures that differ from other submission systems. The workspace model means applications are built and validated within the Grants.gov system itself. You create a workspace for your application, upload components, complete forms within the system, and validate before submission. The workspace allows you to check compliance before final submission. Use the validation function repeatedly during preparation to catch problems early. Role requirements specify that the authorized organizational representative, or AOR, must actually submit the application. The AOR is someone with legal authority to commit your organization, registered with Grants.gov, and linked to your organization's profile. Project directors and other team members typically cannot submit even if they prepared the application. Ensure your AOR is available and prepared to submit when your application is ready. The two-stage process means submission goes first to Grants.gov, then transfers to the specific funding agency. Grants.gov validates and accepts your submission, then forwards it to the agency named in your application. Each stage can generate separate confirmations and potentially separate problems. Track your application through both stages. A tracking number is assigned upon successful submission to Grants.gov. This unique identifier allows you to monitor your application status and serves as proof of submission. Record this number immediately upon receiving it. You will need it to track your application and to demonstrate timely submission if questions arise. System outages are a reality of electronic submission that you must plan for. Understanding outage protocols protects you when systems fail. Outage reality means electronic systems do experience failures, sometimes at the worst possible moments. Servers crash, networks fail, software bugs cause unexpected behavior. No system is perfectly reliable. Assuming the system will be available when you need it is a gamble that sometimes loses. Peak load problems intensify near deadlines when many applicants submit simultaneously. Systems designed for normal traffic volume may slow dramatically or fail entirely under deadline-driven load. The final hours before major deadlines see the highest traffic and the highest likelihood of system problems. This is another reason early submission protects you. Official protocols at Grants.gov establish procedures for handling outages that affect applicants. When Grants.gov experiences documented outages within certain time windows before deadlines, they may extend deadlines or accept late submissions from affected applicants. These protocols are published and updated periodically. Familiarize yourself with current procedures before you need them. Documentation requirements mean you must document your submission attempts to benefit from outage accommodations. If the system fails during your submission attempt, record the date, time, error messages, and screenshots if possible. This documentation proves you attempted timely submission. Without documentation, you cannot demonstrate that system failure rather than your own delay caused late submission. Understanding what outage policies actually cover helps you plan appropriately and avoid false expectations. These policies have specific scope and limitations. System-side failures are what outage policies address, meaning problems with Grants.gov infrastructure that prevent applicants from submitting. Server failures, network problems, software bugs, and similar system-level issues may qualify for deadline relief when they affect submission capability. The system itself must be the problem. Documented outages must be officially acknowledged by Grants.gov to trigger deadline relief. The system maintains outage logs and makes determinations about which outages warrant accommodation. Not every momentary glitch qualifies. You cannot simply claim there was an outage. The system must have documented the failure. Time windows for outage accommodations are typically within hours of the deadline, not days before. If the system fails 5 days before your deadline, you are expected to submit when service resumes. Accommodations apply when outages occur close enough to deadlines that applicants genuinely could not complete submission in time. Early submission avoids dependence on these narrow windows. What is not covered includes your own technical problems. Your internet failure, your computer crash, your organizational network problems, your software incompatibilities are all your responsibility. Outage policies protect you from system failures, not from your own infrastructure. Having backup submission capabilities and submitting early protects you from problems that outage policies do not cover. Backup submission strategies prepare you for problems that outage policies do not cover. Having contingencies protects your investment in proposal development. Alternative locations provide backup internet access if your primary connection fails. Know where else you can go to submit: a colleague's office, a library, a coffee shop with reliable Wi-Fi. Test that you can access submission systems from these locations before you need them. Having options prevents a single point of failure from destroying your submission. Multiple devices provide backup if your primary computer fails. A laptop problem at deadline time is devastating if you have no alternative. Know where you can access another computer with the software needed to open your files and complete submission. A colleague's machine, an organizational backup, or even a personal laptop kept as reserve can save a submission. Team coordination ensures someone else can submit if you become unavailable. Your authorized organizational representative should know the submission process and have access to final files. If you are the AOR and become ill or have an emergency, someone else authorized should be able to step in. Document your submission process so others can follow it. Offline preparation means completing everything possible before depending on internet connectivity. Prepare all files, complete all forms, and verify all components offline. Your online session should be brief: upload, validate, submit, confirm. Minimizing time online minimizes exposure to connectivity problems. The submission confirmation is your proof of timely submission and must be captured and preserved carefully. This document has legal significance. Immediate capture means saving the confirmation the moment it appears. Do not assume you can retrieve it later. Take a screenshot, print the page, copy confirmation numbers, download any confirmation documents offered. The seconds after successful submission are when you secure your proof. Multiple copies stored in different locations protect against loss. Send the confirmation to your email, save it to your local drive, upload it to cloud storage, share it with a colleague. If any single storage location fails, you have backups. Losing your only copy of confirmation creates problems if disputes arise later. Key information to capture includes the tracking number assigned by the system, the timestamp showing when submission occurred, and any confirmation numbers provided. Record these details separately from the confirmation document itself. If you can only remember one number, make it the tracking number that allows you to look up your submission status. Legal significance arises because your confirmation proves timely submission if questions arise later. Agencies occasionally have disputes about whether applications were received on time. Processing errors sometimes lose applications. Your confirmation demonstrates you submitted by the deadline. Without confirmation, you may have difficulty proving you met requirements. Treat confirmation as a legal document and preserve it accordingly. Post-submission verification confirms your application reached its destination successfully. Submission is not truly complete until you verify receipt. Status tracking means monitoring your application status after submission through the Grants.gov system. Your tracking number allows you to check status online. Initial status shows submission received by Grants.gov. Status updates as your application moves through processing. Check status daily for the first week after submission to catch any problems quickly. Agency receipt confirmation verifies that your application transferred successfully from Grants.gov to the specific funding agency. This two-stage process means Grants.gov acceptance does not guarantee agency receipt. Your status should eventually show transfer to the agency. If status seems stuck or shows transfer problems, investigate promptly. Error notifications may come after initial submission acceptance. Some validation occurs immediately, but other checks happen during processing. You may receive notifications of problems hours or days after submission. Monitor the email address associated with your submission for any notifications. Missing an error notification can mean missing your chance to correct problems. Timeline awareness helps you know when to expect status changes and when to be concerned about delays. Grants.gov typically processes submissions within 1 to 2 business days. agency transfer usually follows within a similar time frame. If your status has not updated as expected, follow up proactively rather than assuming everything is fine. When submission problems occur, your response approach determines outcomes. Knowing how to handle problems effectively can save submissions that seem lost. Stay calm even when facing serious problems near deadlines. Panic impairs the clear thinking you need for problem solving. Take a breath, assess the situation objectively, and proceed methodically. Most problems have solutions if you approach them calmly. A panicked response often makes things worse. Contact support because help desks exist specifically to assist with submission problems. Grants.gov has support staff available to help troubleshoot issues. Describe your problem clearly, provide your tracking number if you have one, and follow their guidance. Support staff have seen your problem before and often know exactly how to resolve it. Do not struggle alone when help is available. Document everything when problems occur. Record timestamps of your submission attempts, exact error messages received, steps you took to resolve problems, communications with support staff, and outcomes of each attempt. This documentation proves your diligent efforts if disputes arise. It also helps support staff understand your situation and provide better assistance. Know escalation paths for elevating urgent issues that frontline support cannot resolve. Ask support staff how to escalate if initial help is insufficient. Know your organization's contacts at funding agencies who might be able to intervene. Understanding escalation options before you need them saves precious time during crises. Building organizational practices around submission timing improves success rates across all your proposals. Individual good practice should become institutional standard practice. Standard procedures establish organizational submission protocols that everyone follows. Document your submission process step by step. Specify who does what and when. Include the 48-hour rule as policy, not suggestion. When early submission is organizational policy rather than individual preference, compliance increases and risks decrease. Timeline templates build early submission into project timelines from the beginning. When you plan proposal development backwards from the deadline, include submission buffer time as a fixed requirement, not flexible slack that gets consumed by other activities. Templates that include submission timing help project managers allocate time appropriately. Lessons learned documentation captures problems and solutions for future reference. When you encounter a validation error and solve it, document what happened and what worked. When a submission fails, analyze why and record how to prevent recurrence. This organizational knowledge helps colleagues avoid problems you have already solved. Training ensures all staff understand submission procedures before they need to use them. New staff should learn your submission protocols as part of onboarding. Periodic refreshers keep procedures current as systems change. Staff who understand the process thoroughly submit more successfully than those figuring it out under deadline pressure. Let us summarize the key points from this lesson on submission timing strategy. Early submission transforms risks into manageable issues by providing time to respond to problems. Validation errors, system outages, and technical difficulties become solvable challenges rather than submission failures when you have buffer time. The difference between success and failure is often simply when you attempted to submit. The standard practice should be submitting 48 to 72 hours before the deadline. This is not excessive caution, it is professional practice based on experience with what can go wrong. Build this buffer into every project timeline. Treat it as a requirement, not a goal. Your proposal deserves the protection that early submission provides. Be prepared for problems by understanding validation processes, knowing outage protocols, and having backup strategies ready. Preparation does not prevent problems, but it enables effective response when problems occur. Know what to do before you need to do it. In our next lesson, we examine the peer review process. Understanding how your proposal will be evaluated helps you write more effectively for reviewers and interpret feedback more accurately when it arrives. Practice exercise. Review your organization's submission procedures. If you do not have documented procedures, draft them. If you do have procedures, verify they include early submission requirements, validation error response protocols, and outage contingency plans. Strengthen any gaps you identify.